Greetings, heroes and Force users. Welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Alyssa Simmons, and I'm joined today by my two pals, Dino Nicandros.
Hello.
And Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And today we are talking the Marvel Disney Plus series, Daredevil Born Again, episodes 1 through 3. And you know how much I love blood and gore and violence. So I'm here to join you all on this journey. And by God, we're Marvel fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Art.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntauns, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntauns podcast, please like and subscribe.
Alyssa is a born-again Christian.
A born-again
A born-again Daredevil.
A born-again Daredevils.
Well, originally, Alyssa, you weren't going to be joining us for
No,
this
because
endeavor,
I couldn't watch the Netflix series.
which was admittedly some of the most violent.
Which was very violent.
If not, maybe the most Marvel violent.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I had a feeling that it would probably be, still violent, but a little less violent than the Netflix counterpart.
Yeah, so
Yes.
far.
So, yeah, whenever a fight sequence starts, I am ready to, look down
Yeah, and pray to
And-
Jesus.
and plug my ears.
Heavenly
to
Father,
not-
please.
As to not hear bone snapping and
Yeah, so far we
necks
haven't
breaking
seen.
and...
Yeah, we haven't seen a head smashed into a.
No head smashed into a car door yet, which was
Yeah, I
my...
haven't seen
Close.
that yet.
Which was my... Where I
That's your
bowed out
stopping
last
point.
time.
Yeah, you're like,
I mean,
okay,
we
well.
get 10 minutes into episode 1, and you get very close to
Yeah.
to something like that. That was wild.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I don't have the emotional connection to these characters that you two have, but how was it watching
I think we
these
do-
people again?
We have very, very varying degrees of having seen all of it, right? Because
Oh, okay. You haven't seen all of it?
Alyssa hasn't seen any, right?
No,
Like,
I watched like 3 or 4 episodes of
Got it,
the
of
original
season 1.
series. Of season 1 of the original series, yes.
Right.
And now I've watched the first 3 episodes of this series.
Wow, you're about to break your record.
Yeah.
What about you, Dino?
I had watched Daredevil Netflix series.
The whole thing.
Yes.
Got it.
And
What about the
Defenders?
The Defenders? You
Defenders.
did too.
I watched a little.
I watched
a little bit
Defenders.
of that.
Yeah, because I loved Jessica Jones. I watched that
Oh,
one.
Jessica
Jones
Jones and
was
Luke
so great.
Cage. I watched bits and pieces of both of those shows.
And Iron Fist was your favorite, right?
Oh, you know me just so well.
You're being facetious.
But in terms of like straight through narrative, I'd watched Daredevil, and then obviously he pops up in She-Hulk as a supporting
Right.
character, and then Spider-Man cameo. So
Yeah.
really, it's been
And he had a little cameo on Echo as well.
yes.
Right. Along
right.
with
Fisk.
Fisk. Yes, right.
So yes, to answer your question, I did watch and enjoy the Daredevil series way
I
back
think
when.
that you may take the cake for having seen the most. Because I have seen, admittedly, because I thought that I had watched all
Admit
of
it.
Daredevil, but I admit it. But it turns out that I only watched the first 2 seasons.
How many were there?
Because I was
3?
like starting to trying to like recap myself so I could remember, because it's been like 12 million years.
Yeah.
I was like, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this fucking crazy Poindexter guy? I was like, who the hell? What the
Bullseye.
huh? Yeah, very, very confusing.
Well, and trying to think of how to weave this into our discussion. Well, maybe maybe it will organically happen. I won't cover it now, but
We're very organic here.
we're
Free range.
organic and pescatarian in this in this here podcast.
Presbyterians.
Presbyterian in this
Presbyterian.
Born
here
again
podcast.
Presbyterian.
Born
Yes.
again Presbyterians.
Um,
I didn't
well-
even realize the born again thing. Like,
but no, but I mean, but all jokes aside, it actually is quite. It's quite a good little subtitle for
yeah,
for Daredevil. If you
Absolutely.
aren't familiar with the character, he's a devout Catholic who
Right.
wrestles with his visceral enjoyment of violence. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
a really fascinating premise for a character if you haven't been overly exposed to Daredevil.
Yes.
And very different from most of the other Marvel heroes who all have their complications, but somebody who openly admits and acknowledges his dark side and finds
Dark side.
enjoyment and relief in it. So
And
I'm
it's
really
so fun to watch, and watching Fisk just kind of drive that knife in there and twist
Charlie
it a little bit.
Cox. Charlie Cox is one of the best actors Marvel has.
Agreed.
Had
He's
to
so
be.
great.
Very good. He's very good.
And what's more is he loves this character so
Yeah.
much. You hear him interviewed. He said I would do this forever, and I'm sure the
amazing.
paycheck
I hope he
is
does.
helpful in that endeavor. But
Yeah,
And
no,
I'm glad that they're. Well, it's funny. I think that we all had to more or less beg Kevin Feige, but I'm glad that the people at Disney are seeing his worth. It seems.
oh yeah,
And
And-
I think that
I
this
think
is
that they were
the
just. I think that they were just nervous about, rightfully so, about the
Blood and
Netflix
guts.
characters. Yeah, the general kind of violent nature of all of those shows and
Well-
how that would work now that Disney owns.
yeah.
owns Marvel.
yeah. I think that's right. And two, there was this kind of give and take between Marvel Studios and the Marvel TV shows. Kevin Feige wasn't show running any of the that was a completely different department, and I wasn't attached to Marvel Studios obviously because Netflix was running the series, but I don't remember the gentleman's name who was in charge, but I seem to recall there wasn't a great relationship there. But the big issue,
Was it and
Not the
when
new
you say
showrunner, right? The one that's been on this one.
No, the one who previously shepherded some of the Netflix Marvel
Got it.
series. But
when you say that they didn't have a good relationship, meaning there was
they had different
rivalry,
creative differences,
just different
and then-
ideas of where they wanted to go.
Well, and you have Kevin over here trying to build a cinematic universe, and
Right.
the difficulty you ran into with these shows, and then even ABC's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was technically under Marvel Studios'
Right.
purview, or at least in the family. The problems you ran into were, especially early on, well, later on, I mean, early in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it ran pretty concurrently with what was happening on the big screen at the time. There were references to Captain America and Avengers and all of that. But
and the New York
further they
event
got
or whatever
on,
with Loki.
but the longer the series progressed, they started to diverge a little bit, and it was becoming increasingly difficult for the TV properties to organically weave their stories into the greater cinematic universe. And I think a big sticking point for canonizing, Jennifer Jones or Jessica Jones, excuse me, and Luke Cage and
Jennifer is
Punisher,
the sister.
and Punisher as we saw them was how do we take some of the contradictions that may have popped up
Arisen. Yeah.
canonically
for sure.
in these shows and weave
Yep.
them back in. But I think obviously Kevin Feige was comfortable and
Because they
and
do
tying
kind
them
of more or less, at least, without having watched the entire, the entirety of all of the different shows, it seems like they kind of more or less tied up most of their stuff in a nice little, private package.
yeah, and they
More
do
or less.
they do enough to demonstrate that they exist in the MCU, but
Right.
I think now that Daredevil is under the purview of Marvel television, obviously the ties are much
Deeper.
much
Yeah.
deeper, and
It's not like they have a giant, celestial being sticking out of the earth. Like they
Yes.
didn't do that to the world, because like that would have been a little.
No,
little,
and they
world
they
building,
kept
big-
those characters other than the Defenders, when they did the team up.
Mhm.
I mean, they intertwined Luke and Jessica because those characters are very intertwined in the comics.
right.
But
Well, they're
they
also
kind of
like
kept them. They kept them
an item.
separate, so to speak. Like they. So it's a little cleaner in that
Yeah.
regard. That they're not like we have like actually so many different properties that we're trying to justify.
Right.
Well, I didn't. I don't know if this is where we want to start the conversation, but but you sort of inspired me.
I do that.
You do. You're so inspiring.
Alyssa does not.
When we talked about how Daredevil and just the overall feeling of the show, the overall violent nature of the show, and how that style fits into the overall MCU is it is an interesting thing, because like in its own little pocket, it's like this incredible show, and part of that is because of its violent nature.
Yeah.
And when you try to like fit Daredevil the character into other stories, I think that, because we even talked about this, I think, when we reviewed Echo and when we reviewed
And Deadpool.
And Deadpool,
right?
yeah.
It was just, there was like it was like if something felt a little off, it was just like, oh, that, like it's or even with Fisk in
And
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like this sort of softness to him that we weren't used to, which was like, it was interesting to see that side of him. Like, he's like, oh, he's got like a weird father figure. That's interesting. But there was still a like, and again, and this is also partly just because it's a different director, different, the way that they're, different video, all the, like the entire team is different from what I understand.
Yes.
So just within that, the style is going to feel different, but it didn't really work as well for me in other, in other iterations.
In the other shows.
Yeah, but him in his own show and Fisk in his own show, like it really works for me. Like I guess my general thought is that I really am enjoying this show so far, in a nutshell. But in other ways, it's a little more challenging. I don't know why. And in other shows,
I think one thing, and that I hope, and we've talked about this for years now with all of the Disney Plus series, kind of, not that we don't love how brilliantly Kevin Feige can tie everything into each other.
He's a weaver.
He is a frickin' weaver.
But
I do think that there is room for these characters and these different styles to exist on their own without weaving them into everything else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Where they can be their own little
They can be
nugget.
their own thing. They can be their own absolute flavor.
We don't need everybody to join up like all the time.
Well,
yeah.
I look at it like in comparison to like how I read comics, right? Like they're like, I love the team stories, but like there are some times where there's a character from like what you're describing, Daniel, which is like, Fisk appearing in another storyline, in a Hawkeye comic or in an Echo comic. And it's like, oh, it doesn't quite feel like Fisk from Daredevil.
Right. It's like, are we still in the same universe?
It is him, but like it feels a little different because he's appearing in a different style book. And so like, yeah, I think that my hope is with this type of storytelling That they allow it to still exist and don't try to shove it into other stuff.
Yeah, unless it's like
Other stuff that
really
it doesn't-
super
doesn't
necessary.
like justify being shoved into. If that makes sense.
Right. I was gonna say that, like, unfortunately for you know, I don't know for Kevin Feige, but or for anybody that's working on this, a lot of these characters like fight in New York City. So like New York City is a big place, obviously, millions and millions of people, but it's also like, small. Like you can't turn a corner without seeing a friend of yours. Like it truly feels like that sometimes. So to say that like you have like Jessica Jones, you have Daredevil.
Well, I mean, Jessica Jones and Daredevil like literally live in the same neighborhood. They both live in Hell's Kitchen.
And then you got,
Spider-Man and Queens.
Spider-Man and
Queens, and you
Punisher.
got like, the Avenger Tower and la la la. Like they're all like right there. So it's like, how do you justify them not working together in some form? Like it's like they all know each other. Like they could literally just go 2 blocks to the left and like,
But,
So it is. I understand why there feels like maybe a need to connect them in some way.
Well, yes, but you could go back to the very beginning of Marvel Studios and the first couple of Captain America, Winter Soldier, where are the Avengers?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's him, Falcon, and Black Widow, but where's Tony during that time?
Right.
And I'm not sure I really care about the answer because at some point you just got to tell the story. And
there's
true.
At the
They're
end
not
of the
gonna be
day, you have to
available
be
all the
like,
time,
it is. These stories are from comic books,
Right.
so like there isn't. I mean, in any entertainment in general, there's that like suspension of disbelief. You just have to kind of like be like, okay, well, let's watch this thing.
What I appreciate what they're doing here, particularly through Kingpin's mayoral bid, is that his overarching agenda is to put a stop to vigilantism. And he mentions Spider-Man and Punisher and so I do think there's a way to organically kind of put all of these people under an umbrella, and it may, depending on how they use Daredevil going forward, I think it's organically going to create a way for them all to
join forces.
Or in segments. And what I think really, and I don't want to talk too much about to Alyssa's point, we don't need to talk too much about the broader MCU. But I think what they might be trying to do now is similar to what they did in Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the MCU, which is put everybody in their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Group certain characters together based on
proximity,
interesting relationships, conflicts. And then that's how you tell the bigger stories in the movies. You already have them kind of compartmentalized, and you don't have to worry about scenes with 30 different characters trying to get their say.
Or even just like meet each other.
Or random cameos that are appearing that you're like, I mean, we know why they just introduced them like that, but like, why did they have to do it that way?
You don't even relate to that guy. But like the Rousseau brothers, I think we've talked about this a lot before, but they do a really good job. They have done a really good job, like in Endgame, like, having so many characters together, but they still connect the ones that we know, like fit in like, there's like numerous stories happening like parallel to each other, but like there's like these like this group of people that we all know and love, and there's this group of people that we all know and love, and they're all working towards the same goal. But
you break them off into bite-sized, chewable stories, and then they come together.
Totally.
Eventually.
Instead of just like having them all and working together in the same room, like too many cooks, too many
and the work has already begun, considering where we've seen Daredevil since the Netflix series. Representing Peter and hooking up with She-Hulk, Jennifer.
Right.
But I really do like where they're taking the characters. I know we just talked about the discrepancy and maybe the not over the top, but just very violent nature of the Netflix iteration of the story. I actually think toning it down a little bit, at least as far as Kingpin is concerned, actually fits with where his arc is.
I agree.
No, yeah, you're right, and
Yeah.
and I think that's maybe because I honestly, because I didn't see season 3 and also
okay,
Well,
the
and
Defenders.
where we last left him, right, was like when Maya shot him in the face.
Yes.
Right.
But even before that,
But before that, it felt
before we even get to Hawkeye, where we left Kingpin was agreeing to go back to jail in exchange for his wife's freedom. Vanessa's
right.
freedom.
Vanessa,
And
So there
and
has been a shift.
the deal was Fisk would leave Karen and Foggy alone,
Mhm.
and you know,
Or did he?
his wife would go free, and
Yeah.
Which I can't wait to talk about.
so he is still the sociopathic, power-hungry guy, but he has taken on kind of a if I couldn't achieve my aims through a crime syndicate, maybe I could appeal to the general population and work on their worst fears, and he sees an opening very clearly after the blip and everything that's happened in New York City. I mean, the place, like you were just saying, Daniel, just gets trashed over and over in the MCU, and
Right.
And so it actually
why would
makes
you even live there at that point?
no. I mean, just from the Spider-Man movies alone, there's
I
so
know,
much
you're
bullshit.
Like, jeez Louise.
like move to Ohio. Just go
I
somewhere
cannot ima-
else.
I
Get
wonder
yourself
what
to the Cleve, for
what
God's
do you
sake.
think? What do you think the rent crisis is like in
Oh my
MCU
God.
New York?
or just like home insurance. Like
No, they pulled out. The insurance companies pulled
No,
out.
they don't
There's
exist.
no
They
way.
all they
They're like,
did
we're
what
There
not
is no
all those-
insuring
insurance in the
you.
MCU.
No.
yeah,
That
do you
is
have
bullshit.
alien invasion insurance?
Chitauri.
Yeah. Jesus God. So yeah, so I get that. I see that there's been like I mean I can buy that he's had this sort of like
Many life events happen that are
many
kind
life
of,
events. Although I still kind of, because like you said, he's like a sociopathic, dude. So I feel like through and through, I don't foresee him having a like a true like I mean, of course he's gonna have a character arc, but I feel like it's gonna be more of a like a U-turn as opposed to like a full arc.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a serpentine path to the same goal.
Yeah. I think that he's just it sounds like it's like he's just changing tactics. Like he's still like trying to do his shitty things, but he's doing it now in a more lighthearted way that kind of is palatable to the general public,
Right, and like even their conversation when they meet in the diner.
Oh yeah,
and,
what a great scene!
Which great freaking
So great.
scene.
Yeah.
Matt Murdock is kind of like what does he say? He said, I heard your mentor shot you in the face, or something to that effect. And he's like, the youth these days.
He's like, oh yeah, you've been keeping up with me, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, kids these days, it's really hard to get through to them. But I think to your point about changing tactics and stuff, he's failed, in several different avenues, and
Numerous times.
And politics is just another route.
Yeah, how funny that, like, I mean, and it's just, and it's unfortunately, it would be like in another universe so unbelievable, but in our stupid universe, it's so completely believable that, like, he would think, like, oh God, a life of crime. What would be easier? Running for office. And
Yeah,
it is just insane. It is insane.
Yeah, and there's this interesting sort of dichotomy that's happening just in the first 3 episodes. We'll see where it's going. Where Fisk is the actual bad person,
right?
Who is going out and, at least on the surface, doing the obviously good things, like getting a pothole filled, or
Yeah.
or stamping out corruption, or secure law and order in New York City. That's generally a good thing.
Law and order.
And then you've got Matt Murdock over here wrestling with his own demons, who is defending an alleged cop killer, and which is the right thing to do. But you just kind of have this feeling that the bad guy's doing good stuff and the good guy's doing bad stuff. And I think that's such an interesting way to kick off this show.
Totally.
It really is. And I would do wish, because I mean, you guys can tell me because you watched more of the original series. Is like Matt representing people in court like a pretty prominent thing? Like, does that happen quite a bit? Yeah, because I really do love like that aspect of it. Like, because I love a good, like,
everybody loves
order, a court drama,
court drama.
Like I do, and like having it be that, but like with superheroes and stuff is so fun.
Yeah, he's a like a troubled character, which is, I mean,
yeah, he's very complex. That's what
complex.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, and
I'm really interested to see how this whole season unfolds. Really,
his little origin story is really like sad and sweet too.
And to, like we were talking about, 10 minutes in, we're kind of dropped back into their world. Really, where Daredevil left off last time, Karen, and Foggy had started their own little law firm, and so to start this,
and he is basically put away, like the character of Daredevil. He is like, I'm not going to be that guy anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that happens
after this.
Right. Well, that happened. We watch it happen, and the reason, the way
this is the moment.
The series kicks off. He does something that he never did before, which is actively try to kill somebody.
Right. Like he didn't just like accidentally. He like literally pushed the guy off.
He pushed him off the roof.
I mean, he pushed his bullseye off with the intent of that sequence.
Woo!
Oh my god.
That didn't let up. It wouldn't let me breathe. I was like, breathe. I can't breathe.
Foggy.
And that was the cold open, you guys. Like,
that
was before credits rolled. I was like...
They kill one of the main characters from the Netflix series in the first 10 minutes. And then you get one of the most wild knockdown, drag out, absolutely painful fights that
I closed my eyes and then I opened and I saw
how many
knives he had. Like 10 knives in him. I was like,
this show in particular, I don't know if I actually didn't do my research like about the team behind it, but I'm curious if they kept a lot of the same people, because I feel like the sound design in the show has always been really stellar. Because
there's
it's just
some overlap. Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like the attention to detail is awesome. Because I mean that's like the most important thing to Matt Murdock is sound.
It's brilliant. The way that
it's very.
Anytime he is dropping in on a conversation that's far away, the way that they establish that is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But just specifically in that one scene, the opening like 10 minutes or whatever, it just as he's fighting, listening to his friend's heartbeat get slower and slower. Like, oh my God, it's so heartbreaking.
Brutal.
And it just gives his fight so much more desperation, Oh man, it gave me chills. It was so good.
Well, and then what it does to start there is such an electric choice, because
you get his choices that he makes,
right, and then it just really creates that kind of undercurrent boiling that is going to be at the center of he and Fisk's conflict, which is, Dan, I think you said this very early on. He knows how to poke him, and
he's like, "Oh yeah, it feels good to be evil, right? You like that, don't you, bitch?"
Have you acknowledged that you do really enjoy doing that?
You're just like me. See, I told you.
Which is a very Batman and all of his villains.
Yes.
Thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's very
like the
Joker.
Joker is always
all of the villains in Batman are like know that Bruce Wayne struggles with basically enjoying the violent part of what he does.
Right,
and,
but he
and
never
trying
kills
to push
people.
them. No, trying to push him. That's the great struggle, is trying to push him to break his.
because
his
you know,
rule.
yeah, he is kind of on a razor's edge of being like a total lunatic. You know?
So that
Yeah.
that was absolutely thrilling.
Yeah, I actually ooh, and also I'm a big fan of musical transitions. The going from the like him on the top of the roof and the like him pushing him off and then the heartbeat slowing to a stop and then the music like chord the chord transition from that moment to the opening credits was just like I cried. I actually cried.
And
I was like,
they
oh,
used,
it was so
they
beautiful.
used the same theme with a different opening credits, but
again, no research because I just didn't do any homework.
I have stuff pulled up, so if you have a specific question, I can try to look.
Well, what I am curious about is who created that opening, because I want to know if they were the same people who created the opening for.
I don't know if it's the.
I don't know if it's the same people, but obviously
I have no idea. Actually.
Well,
I mean,
no, sorry, not the same person as the original Netflix, but I think that they've done like numerous Netflix
mean
projects, because it looks like the same vibe as The Queen.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, maybe.
About?
You mean The Crown?
Sorry.
Crown. Yes, I know what
Yes.
you're talking about.
The Queen, Crown, Queen.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right?
Certainly, stylistically, it looks a little bit like that. Although I've
Similar
seen a few,
vibes.
I feel like I've seen a few shows. Actually, Severance is not unlike that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, Severance is like a little more wild, but
well, because it features more.
God, I wish we were talking about that show. That show's
but I feel like Dune Prophecy kind of had a. They all kind of have this ethereal quality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a thought.
Can't wait.
Just had an apostrophe.
I had an apostrophe.
Sounds like it must have hurt.
Perhaps it'll come back to me. Well, that was just the first 10 minutes, and then I love what. Well, I don't love. I actually hate what it does to Matt and Karen's relationship.
I know.
A year goes by after that cold open, and Karen has moved, and they've become quite distant, and then they don't talk to they don't talk to each other. How they process their grief is very different, and I don't know. There's something. I hope this show isn't relatable to people in its most extremes, obviously.
Remember that time I pushed a guy off a roof? Gosh.
I tried to smash his head after he murdered my best friend in cold blood.
Yeah. Oh, God, that happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I do think people can relate to, again, going back to accepting that they're all, everybody contains multitudes, so the good and the bad, and deciding what to act on, and then in conjunction with that, what grief does do to your relationships, and whether it be in a family or friendship or a romantic relationship. I just like how grounded these characters are in that reality.
Like they're making logical decisions.
Like,
it doesn't feel completely
would.
irrational.
Yeah,
Right.
it feels
They're rationally
completely
irrational.
different to every.
Rationally
it's not just
irrational.
And even that scene where Matt and Karen run into each other briefly and after after
hearing.
his testimony.
Oh,
And he's like, could we go get coffee? And she's like, no, I don't really want to. He's like, I know you're lying. And whether you know it or not is like, I know you want to. And then there's like the whole, I lost somebody too, which I've had that conversation.
totally.
Like,
Yeah, it's like you're not the only one that's hurting.
Right.
Yeah.
And how people choose to deal with it, and really, really heartbreaking, but actually quite moving how quickly in this show they've kind of just dropped into this humanity without, even if you hadn't seen the Netflix series.
Oh yeah, because I mean I didn't spend much time with the characters before because I could only stomach so much, but yeah, it's really compelling and
relatable.
Yeah, and fascinating to watch them process it differently and reconcile with what that means for their friendship. And yeah, it's really, really great so far.
It's it is a like I don't want to say trope because that makes it sound like it's overused or something, because I think they're using this trope well, but like in like sequels in general, like not just movies but like video games, I mean you name it, like they, especially in a video game, because oftentimes video games come with like a character that has like special powers and la 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 that kind of thing. What you do at the beginning of the game, you show them like at their peak, like with all of their powers, like look at what you can do, and then something drastically crazy happens and you lose all of your powers and all of your friends, and now you're all alone and you have nothing, and then that's how the game sort of begins. So you're like, I know where I can be, so I have like a goal to work towards. And I kind of feel like that's sort of what the show did, is that we got to see like Daredevil peak performance, and now he's been like stripped of all of that, and he's and also his friends, because like now he like both of his like best friends are now dead or MIA. So yeah, it really puts him at an emotional disadvantage.
And then so you have him kind of grappling with that loss and it directly affecting his relationships. On the other side, you have the same thing happening to Wilson Fisk.
Sure.
He drops into this series while his wife Vanessa is
it's like, oh yeah,
holding court with all of the city's crime families.
Yes.
He strolls in, and they all know to get up and walk out, and that bothers her so much. Which, what a great way to start, or to drop us back into that relationship. And,
very interesting dynamic, yeah.
They were separated, obviously, when he went back to prison, and then at some point he gets out, and, all this stuff with Echo and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But we literally put them into couples therapy. And I think it's such an interesting...
that was very, honestly, super unexpected for me. I'm curious if that was in the comics or not. It assumedly was, but...
And then for Vanessa, to... he does love her. That's what's so sick about this guy and what he chooses to do. He made a deal to keep her out of prison, and then
and that was like his whole motivation for. I mean, in like most of the seasons of Daredevil, if I'm not mistaken,
protect his wife, and to put him in a situation now where she resents the power he's built after it kind of intrinsically built that she had to kind of toil over, and she built their quote unquote business and. And commanded respect, but being a woman and being the wife of a powerful man makes her job 10 times harder. So for him to pop back into her life,
and to ask her to like completely drop it so that he can, run for mayor, it's like, oh, okay.
And so to have that kind of as an anchor to all of the things he wants to achieve, really, really interesting dynamic there.
Very interesting. Also, I am curious, just to sort of sidestep, because they do have that conversation where he's like, he sort of mysteriously says that he has like a greater goal in mind.
Yeah.
What do we feel like that might be? Like, is that running for president? Or, I mean, I know that there is now a pocket to be filled since there is currently not a president, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the meantime, the goal is to get rid of all the vigilantes.
Right.
But
oh, sure, yeah.
But like
absolutely.
the greater goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he wants power. Like,
is that what we think? Like, I think the clues that we have so far is that he like you said, he wants to get rid of all the vigilantes. But like we all know, it's like there's some nefarious reason for that. It's not just because he thinks it's for the betterment of the city. It's for the betterment of him. Like, it's basically to get everybody out of the way so that he can do whatever the hell he wants. You know, and So yeah, I think he's clearing the board, so to speak.
And he talks about, Vanessa says to him at one point, all the crime families are eating each other without us there to wrangle them. And he says, well, let them eat each other. And she said, well, when they're done eating each other, what's left over is going to come and try and eat you.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm. Foreshadowing. Ooh.
But it does, especially if you're not super initiated with the character of Kingpin. Obviously, you can surmise that he's a bad dude, but it does really seem like he's trying, and Matt even says that. Like, it seems like we're both trying to do better.
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time they're done talking, I think there's a realization that like,
okay, you're still
like
the same
this
guy.
is still
You're
this is
still
like
the same
nuclear
guy.
deterrence. Like, you do you. I'm not going to interfere. You cross this boundary, you're done.
They're clearly still at odds.
But then, we see him trying to be kind of a hit the ground running type mayor. It's like, I have an agenda. I want to aggressively pursue it. And then the police commissioner, who knows all about, he's like, I don't know how you became mayor, but
this is baloney.
My goal is to make you a 1 month mayor.
Right.
And then what Kingpin does there, provides the picture of his wife and daughter, and
big yikes.
And he's like, let's make a compromise. You get none of the funding you've asked for. Thanks for staying. And then you just start to see the wheels turning again of how this guy plans to. He's not going to be blackmailed. He's not going to be.
No, and I don't think his intentions have ever or will ever be actually good.
No,
for the betterment of anybody else other than himself.
No,
that's not who he is.
No, and even like with his wife, you know what I mean? Like, as most like narcissistic sociopaths are, they like, the way that they show love. He's only worried about losing her. You know what I mean? Because it has nothing to do.
It affects him.
Because of how it affects him. Yeah. Exactly correct. Yeah. He's like, I don't want to feel sad. Like, it has nothing to do about what she feels.
And it's also for the optics of his position.
Yes.
Right.
Like his.
Sure.
I thought it was his campaign manager first, but now I'm thinking it's his
chief of staff.
Yeah.
Sure.
And she was like, yeah, so the main issue right now is how the public is seeing your and Vanessa's relationship.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, why else would he go into
and then he goes into couples therapy.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay.
With Daredevil's new girlfriend.
With the new girlfriend.
just to make more things of a twist. But interestingly enough, because we all know that Fisk, I'm actually curious to like hear if you think that it was like, I don't think anything like the writers are not going to like, it's like, oh, isn't that convenient? I think.
Oh no,
that
it was on purpose.
Right. Okay.
Because
Fisk knows
one
stuff.
one of Fisk's Goonies, like somebody who works for him in the office,
Right.
was at her book signing.
Correct. Right.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So she knows that Matt Murdock and her are dating, and it's just like, this is how I get to Matt Murdock, because I'm gonna get connected with this girl. Like, make it look like maybe I'll kill two birds with one stone. Maybe I'll make my relationship with my wife better, but then I'll also be able to,
Stick it to Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So, because that's all, like, I mean, when Matt Murdock finds out somehow, we're gonna learn that at some point, like that Matt is gonna find out that he is one of her clients, and that's gonna drive him nuts.
So you guys can tell me this BB report storyline. Her uncle was a character
reporter.
on the other show?
And
Okay.
and I believe, if I'm not, he died in the 3rd season. Is that right? Because I think I missed that.
I don't know. Ben Urich.
I want to say yes. Was it the 3rd season?
Well, then just say it, Dino.
The decision to
Because I remember him, but I don't remember him dying, so I feel like I missed it. Because otherwise he'd
apparently
still be around.
Fisk strangles him to death.
Okay.
Glad I didn't see that.
Bummer.
Yeah, he says you're a good reporter. He was a great reporter.
Yeah. Oh. Had a real strong neck.
No, I was just looking for the
Jeez.
the actor. When I don't remember
The actor that played Ben.
Yeah,
Vondi Curtis
Yeah.
Hall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's
That's right.
sniffing around there, and then I think at the end of episode 3, Fisk says, like, let's get her back in here or something.
Yeah, we have somebody at the time that's like, no, I have someone more useful.
Yeah, which, I think that there's it's probably, there's a 2-part thing there. I think, he's a really smart, like, chess player. I think he's kind of playing it from numerous angles. But this is all propaganda for him.
Yeah. I loved episode 3. I thought it was
oh my God.
The best story arc that's been introduced thus far. I'm amazed how they can introduce a new superhero in one episode.
Yeah.
Make you fall in love
him.
with this
Love him.
character.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Looking forward to the potential collaboration going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then do what they went ahead and did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
I
absolutely
was not
devastating.
expecting that.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so I
You were?
I knew for some reason in my head I had already clocked. I was like, this poor guy has to die. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but like it's gonna be devastating, and I'm gonna hate it.
I didn't think it would happen within the same episode.
Well, that part actually, I didn't think it was gonna happen right away, so that was devastating. But I was like, the second that he said you can't be the white tiger anymore. You can't do that. And he's looking at his kids or his kid and his wife.
I mean, this was peak court procedural in that all
Yes.
the twists and turns. Having
Actually,
just dealing with police corruption and having witness tampering.
all of those
and
cops in that room watching that hearing. And
and it's so scary. I think that my fear went up immediately when he said he was not guilty. My fear went up. So I think maybe a lot of people were relieved, but I was even more scared.
He's got a freaking
He now has a target on his head.
chest.
I
literally thought the second he was going to walk out of that, there was going to be some
onto
other
the steps or something.
Yeah, on the steps, and it would have been a big public execution or something like
So
that.
I didn't think he was going to be killed. I thought it was going to be he was found guilty. And
What's interesting is that actually is what happened in the. I did that research. That was something that did happen in the comics.
Oh,
he
interesting.
was found guilty in the comics.
I thought they were going to find him guilty, and then Matt has to kind of. That's at least one avenue back into being Daredevil.
Into Daredevil. Yeah.
But I also found out that the actual title "Born Again," Daredevil, is really more the storyline of season 3 of Daredevil, which is weird. I don't really completely understand why they, you know.
Oh, you mean they use that title from a comic run?
Correct. Yeah,
But
a
it
comic
had-
run called Daredevil Born Again, and it was really more the storyline
Or
of
the story of season 3 of the Netflix
season 3.
show.
Mm-hmm. Because it literally shows like the beginning of season 3 is like him, like after like that big like tower destruction, you know, and they like pull him out from underneath it, and he's like basically they like nurse him back to life, more or less.
But I wasn't super familiar with Hector Ayala, the White Tiger, who's played by
me
Camar de
neither.
los Reyes, and
He was fantastic.
Oh yeah, he did a great job.
He was great. From like the instant that he got on the screen, I was like, this is just a freaking good actor.
Yeah.
Like
This is a
everything
good
that he did, I
actor.
was like, he's not even, you know, sometimes where there's like an element of like, you can just, even with really great actors, you can tell that they're acting.
Yeah.
Like with him walking down those steps in the train station, I was like, this guy is just fully inhabiting another person. And it was so lovely to watch. And I'm sad that we're not going to see more of him. Jeez.
well, and just the twists and turns of you know, Matt having this foolproof plan to protect Nikki Torres, who Hector saved from
Right.
getting beaten, and then to have Nikki get up on the stand and betray him, to then changing the strategy to completely outing
him.
Hector.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Which
I was
you
just like, the whiplash was just.
and we are
Well,
seeing.
and then to like to have Matt be like, yes, we did it, we won, and now he is responsible for.
That's
his
exactly what I was
death.
just about to say. We're
Like-
saying we're seeing
carrying
like
his own secret, like
yeah,
Yes!
we're
you know, it's balancing what's the right thing to do. You know, I got this man off, but I also
Giggity.
outed him while having, you know, I'm not going to out myself. So what
Yeah.
business do you have doing it to somebody else? And
yeah. You think you're doing the right thing, but you actually
somebody
literally
killed.
just killed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that
one
we're just
little,
seeing we're just seeing the like one like thing at a time. That is, I think that maybe that is the reason for the title of Born Again, is that we are slowly but surely like rebuilding his rage that's going to
Right.
send him being like, I have no choice but to be Daredevil.
there's no other option.
Yeah.
In the final courtroom scene, there's a little Easter egg drop. I don't know if you guys, if your
I probably missed it.
Spidey sense, so to speak, was engaged. But he was like mentioning all of the help that White Tiger was giving, like specifically to cops. And he mentions White Tiger saving an Officer Morales.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
I mean,
I did hear that.
I'm just
Yeah. So if
Putting
you
it
don't
together
know, Miles Morales, his dad
Is
is
on
a
the
police
New York Police
officer.
Force.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, small. I mean, New York's a big
Again,
place, but it's also a small place.
Morales also,
2 degrees.
you know,
of
but it was
separation.
yeah, my ears perked.
They could have chosen any name. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But choosing Morales, I think, was a very specific choice. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, and just that line of questioning, you know, Matt was doing with him. He said, "Why did you do this? Why did you do this? Because it was the right.
It was the right thing to do.
It was like, what a great hero moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Like,
he's
it's-
just
what a
Well,
he's
and
literally
every question he was answered, like all of those horrifically challenging, you know, moral and physical dilemmas, because it was the right thing to do. Like,
But then, yeah, and then what the DA says in response to that, in his cross-examination, he says, "Well, good people do bad things."
right. I know it's funny. Like
And I was like,
I
"That's
found
the whole
myself.
story of this show."
you're
I
right.
found myself agreeing with
Yeah,
him in a
yeah.
way. I was just like, I hate you for saying
I was
that,
like,
but you're absolutely
yeah, no,
right.
it's like,
I
fuck,
know.
that argument is
That's
is
valid.
it's good.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's the argument for Fisk too.
Yeah, a bad
Uh-huh.
guy doing some good. Like,
Yeah.
potentially, you know what I mean? Or
but
at
I
least
mean, but just
under the
just on a-
guise of
no,
good,
but on a
you know,
basic, on a basic level, he's like
He is trying to do some good stuff, whatever his motives
Means
may
to an
be,
end.
and whatever. Yeah.
yeah. At least on the outside, it appears to be
but
doing.
it's just the inverse of what Hector did. Hector
Mm-hmm.
ended up, killing somebody.
Accidentally.
It's a means to an end, though, to do
Yeah.
the right thing. But
Right.
you did a bad thing in the process,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and the bad guy is trying to do the ultimately bad thing by doing some
Yeah.
good along the way that
Yeah.
maybe
it's
improves
complex.
people's lives. And wow.
I'm just gonna make another shout out to the sound designer too, because fucking ripped my heart out with the freaking. Because it's so funny because I remember him telling it felt like a little like why are we telling this story? I was like, I know that there's a reason for this. Like it's like you're just making us like I wasn't sure exactly. It made me feel like they were just like adding a little flavor to make us love this character more.
which your first Puerto Rican
right, that
superhero.
part.
So
Yeah,
that would
so-
have been enough. But
Right. So it's him telling the story about the beach in Puerto Rico. And then talking about specifically was it the frogs? Is that right? Yes, that make
That
this
chirp
sound
like
that everybody
birds.
else finds annoying. But they're he thinks that they're beautiful and they like mate for life. So they love each other like forever and. Like,
what was it called? The Koki?
Koki, the Koki, right?
Yeah, Koki.
Yes.
And but yeah, to have him die at the end and then have the Koki sound after that was just ruthless. That was the most ruthless thing that they could have done to us. It like because I was already like
found
mouth
peace.
agape, and then I
Jeez.
sob cried after that because
Yeah.
I get chills thinking about it. And not only did it was just a Koki sound, but it was one singular Koki like crying out. You know what I mean? Because like they mate for life, so like one of them is gone, so the other one is like calling for its mate. Oh my
Good God.
Ah! Devastated.
Well, and the I mean, like I feel like it took me like a few minutes to like process what had just
You're like, why would I do that?
the full range of emotion. And then, the person that murdered him wearing the
Punisher
skull emblem
Uh-huh.
on, I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, hold on a second.
I mean, and here you have, again, Fisk's stated goal of removing vigilantism.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
But then, Matt, if not participating in that lifestyle anymore, trying to protect do-gooders, but then you have bad vigilantes, and then you have...
Mhm.
It's just a mess.
It is.
And
It's a mess. I'm
How do you
actually
know what the right
curious-
thing is?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if at some point Matt Murdock and Fisk's goals will align and somehow they will have to kind of like work together in a really weird way, and it's gonna like they're gonna kind of they've been doing this for a while, but at some point they're gonna like go parallel and then like eventually go back to fighting each other. But yeah, that was
could be.
devastating, so sad, but really good. Like I was thinking in my head, like it's moments like that where I'm almost mad at myself for crying because I'm like, they set it up so obviously.
You
and
knew it was coming.
yeah, it wasn't the same thing, but it reminded me of like fucking Coco when at the very end of the movie, they set up this song, this beautiful sweet song, "Remember Me," and like the grandma's there. I was like, oh god, he's gonna fucking sing the song. Here it fucking comes. It's gonna happen, and I still cried. I was like, damn it, you got me again, Pixar. God.
But I love the veneer that like the show exists kind of on two levels. You have the veneer of like formality. You see it in Fisk's relationship with Matt, and then even in the courtroom, after Matt has beaten the shit out of these cops, then the cop they come to an understanding and they don't talk about what really happened. It's like, oh,
Right.
Saw you get a black eye. I'm thinking about you, pal.
Yeah, yeah, it's
and-
really, really good. Oops.
I don't know. I just love how grimy and
It's nice to see bad people being put in their place.
yes.
Mhm.
And then it's unfortunate, but it is terribly fun to watch our heroes get put in really sticky situations that
Yeah.
even if you come out on top,
Mhm.
you will have
Well-
had to have done some pretty bad stuff.
Absolutely. And you were saying before, I think it's just better storytelling. Like they in the court scene where the Nikki Torres guy decides they tried so hard getting him in the room, and then they got
Right.
in
It
the
was
room
like
and then he
we were
just
on the
gives
edge
up.
of our seat if he was even going to frickin' show up, or he
And then he
wasn't
shows
gonna
up
be
and-
killed before he got there.
Right. And it could have that could have been a nice tied up bow, like right there. They could have just written him, just be like, yeah, he was the guy, and then case closed, and that would have been super easy. But they
Corruption runs
better
deep.
storytelling. It was just a nice little twist. It's good. It's
I
good.
also love to tie it back to what we were talking about, how this show exists in the larger Marvel universe.
How do we all exist?
Right.
Really?
I appreciate, and Marvel's done this a few times, where you come off of something huge like Infinity War, Endgame, this big kind of almost universal, or at least almost universal struggle there.
Mm-hmm.
But then you find a way to ratchet the stakes back up, but relative to the size of the world you're playing in. So the fact that Daredevil has achieved such fantastic stakes, with Kingpin becoming mayor and my best friend getting murdered, and then I ended up getting a superhero killed, it all feels really huge and big.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be at an endgame level to have high stakes. Like I think there was a fear that after you've done something that big, the only way forward is Secret Wars or just something.
Right. Something on
Endgame
that
on acid.
scale, always. Yeah.
But if your story parameters are good and the characters are good, you
Doesn't
can put
matter.
them in any situation and it'll be interesting. So I really applaud them even this early on. And all of these shows and movies have done that to varying degrees of success.
But yeah, whatever Daredevil does, I mean, I guess never say never, but I mean, whatever he's doing here is not going to affect Thor.
No,
in what he's doing.
It doesn't need to.
Doesn't need to, and I'm fine with that. Please, God, don't
Don't do it.
Don't need it.
Well, we've got 6 more episodes left, which is exciting.
Yeah.
The
I'm pretty
next
thrilled.
episode is directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff, who
Always loved him.
Did you guys watch Lovecraft Country?
No.
I loved that show.
Yeah, he directed an episode of that.
Nice.
I was so upset that they freaking canceled it.
I
I
know.
mean, I get it now, but womp womp.
But so exciting stuff. Really interested to see how the rest of the season progresses.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Lovecraft Country, like, I was bummed because, like, that show ended because he left to go to do the MCU, and then he ruined everything. But it's interesting because I was upset that, it was because of that. But I mean, I guess regardless of whether he took the job at the MCU, that show probably would have died as well. So it was meant to be, I guess.
You never know. You
So
never frickin' know. All right. Well, those are our really, really scattered thoughts in the first episodes
I know.
of this show. But
really, most importantly, Alyssa, welcome. I'm so glad.
thank you. Well,
I truly, I'm just so
can-
proud of you.
I know. You might not see Alyssa on every episode we do of
we'll
this,
find
depending
out.
on.
We'll find out depending on how
she might
much
sit
more
this one out.
violent this
Yeah.
thing gets, how much I can stomach. But
Yeah, if you're gonna stay tuned to our episodes, at least stay tuned for that reason alone, just to see if she shows up.
yeah, absolutely.
If Kingpin snaps anybody's spine in this
No,
go around,
I
then
can't do it.
That might be it.
That
The
might
thing
be it
is,
for
I
Alyssa.
do know when it's coming, so like I can
Okay.
close my eyes.
Yeah,
you know?
that's good. That's
But
good.
it's the sound too. It's all upsetting.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, hope you all have a good day. This is Inside the Tauntaun. I'm Alyssa Simmons.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino Nicandros.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast. Please like and subscribe.